Hi! So, I'm not feeling well today, but I also need to get a video out every single day. So, I decided to bust one out from the vault, the top 10 most dangerous cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I decided that I would bust it out and show it off to you guys. I think that this is a really nice video that I did a lot of research for and was super interesting to make, and I hope that you guys like it. Also, if there are any weird cuts, that's because, I used to have, a 1 minute long, hey, subscribe to the channel bit in the middle of every single video, and I don't like that anymore, because look how much simpler this is. I don't care if you complain. This is way better. Hey, only 20% of you are subscribed or something. The ratio, I'm getting an L plus ratio. I need a W plus ratio. See, isn't that much better? Isn't that better than a full minute? Either or, this is just the intro, being recorded 3 years after I made that video, or 4 even, Christ. It's been a while, but y'all get in and watch it. Hope you guys enjoy, and be sure to check out the Discord and the Twitch. All of that. Have a good one!
What's that old phrase? Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you? Well, these cards would feel a little differently about that. You see, these cards can actually hurt you, end your life, or do things even worse. The only stipulations to this list are that we, first of all, don't count anything using Kaiba Corp or similar unconfirmed technology. So we're not counting how Zexal started with buildings being straight up destroyed, as that's just AR for all intents and purposes. Action fields are all a hologram, if a hard light one, but even if we counted them, they wouldn't make the list as all of these cards are more harmful to the average human body. Lastly, we are not counting cards that did real damage to characters in the anime because it was a shadow game, like Lava Golem or Vampiric Leech, as that is more akin to the surroundings being made of Egyptian voodoo magic and not the cards themselves doing anything outside of the game. Now that we have all the stipulations out of the way, let's get right into the list. The first card I want to talk about today is Hinotama, and I won't bother putting effects on the screen for this list, as what they do in the card game is entirely irrelevant to what the card would do in real life, aside from being merely a passing reference. Hinotama in particular doesn't have an out-of-game effect that's notable, unless it's used by a psychic. No, not Psychic Commander Psychic. Hey! I want to stay monetized. That's better. I mean more like people with abilities that are beyond scientific explanation. Now this video won't be going over if these people really exist in real life, as that's a flame war waiting to happen. But just know that Sayer was shown to use this card to maim people in 5Ds, to the point of throwing Carly out of a building and sending Akiza into a coma. So it's reasonable to assume that anyone who has watched Rick and Morty in their life can do the same. I mean, who knows? Maybe if they work on the show, they get to use Ukazi and burn people's houses down. Next card up is a bit controversial, as I had to stretch it a bit. While the last card seems to work with psychics, this card works with demons, specifically Braun, Mad King of Darkworld, who had a deck focused around, well, Darkworld cards, but also making Jaden feel all sort of awful, yucky emotions. They were all caused by the wicked runes. The feelings that can be forced upon someone include sadness, anger, doubt, anguish, and hatred. And I have no idea if these effects are amplified by further uses of the card, but I would assume so. I mean, real-life collections are not limited by the 3 per deck rule, so you might be able to use sadness enough times to make someone take their own life, anger to make your victim destroy people and things they hold dear, leading to doubt, making them an oblivious mess, unaware of what they're doing and if they want to do it. Anguish would make your victim feel like they've lost everything, with no recourse whatsoever, even if they logically know that they're doing okay and that they still have family and friends there to support them. Even after that, hatred may be the most dangerous of all, leading to your victim performing gross acts of violating human rights. I know my lists usually have jokes and a lot of funny, quirky lines, but I cannot say anything that would not come off as crass here. If anything, just make sure that if you're feeling anything that involves the harm of yourself or others, talk to a professional immediately. If you take one thing away from this video, make it that you are not only special, but worth saving. The next card on our list is a lot more cartoony in how it dispatches people. Thank God. Really didn't want to be a Debbie Downer over there, but Jesus, that's some heavy stuff to talk about in a Yu-Gi-Oh video. Anyway, the Seal of Orichalcos is a card that, among other things, can steal a person's soul. Whether or not you believe in the idea of souls, this is just nightmare fuel. You lose a card game, as this must be in a card game, I assume, and its out-of-field effect either straight up murks you, or can trap your consciousness in a stone tablet for eternity. Egyptian voodoo magic notwithstanding. Now, I would take this as either living forever, or straight up dying on the spot, and neither incarnation of these ideas sound particularly fun. Whatever you believe in, just know that if people ran around with the Seal of Orichalcos, you are more than inclined to refuse any game of Uno they may want to play. just isn't worth it. That, and the last hour and a half of your life is spent playing a single round of Uno, which may be a fate worse than death. Speaking of fates worse than death, we have number 7 being Restraining Sword of Impact. If you don't remember this card, you may remember what it does. You see, Yuya's father and Leo Akiba both created a card that was bugged and would end their duels immediately. The catch is, the swords that would be used to restrain the person would stay there forever, only disappearing upon death. Now, I don't know how I would want to go out, but I would think that concurrent starvation, dehydration, and the equivalent of modern torture would not be it. Even if you find help, there's no use. The swords stay, and the swords will take everything from you. Really just makes you wonder how much of a monster Yuya's father was, considering he did this more than once! This wasn't a mistake! This dude just went out and started shish kebabbing people to walls. What a neat parlor trick! Just get rid of your hecklers and surely no one will have anything rude to say about you. What's worse than the death of a human being? How about an attack that would do the same to multiple people? Chariot Pile is literally just a bike gun that puts more than likely street illegal spikes on your wheels. It straight up seems like something out of Mad Max or Twisted Metal. Loved those games as a kid, but I never ever wanted to be there. With Chariot Pile existing, it would make road rage into a national emergency. Most every card here would, but this one hits a little close to home for me to not take it seriously. It didn't even stop after the duel! There was a shot fired after the fact! Greiger, I know you wanted to help those kids like Nom in Dragon Ball. At least all he had to do was beat up a monkey kid. You don't have to make Destruction Derby card games on motorcycles any less safe than it already is. Oh, come on, I had to try and not use the term that describes what Bush did in 2001 in the last spot, but this one, it's almost unavoidable. Alright. 2 cards share the slot, one of them being Hook the Hidden Knight. Have you ever looked at the statistics of car crashes? We'll expect the number 1 cause of death in the developed world to keep that spot. Hook the Hidden Knight straight up locks a vehicle's ability to be controlled, leading to crashes and much, much worse. This card was used in conjunction with Doom Ray, which is exactly what it sounds like. It blows things up and inflicts burn upon anyone in the radius. Both of these cards were used by Team Apocalypse, fittingly, in 5Ds, and it was something that genuinely scared me as a kid. I still don't drive to this day, that's how much car crashes and my lack of control in this situation make me terrified. It wasn't all this episode, obviously, but it really affirmed what I already thought as a kid. Cars are dumb. Let's either get them self-driving or go back to biking, it's more fun anyway. If Call of Duty has taught me anything in the last 2 decades I've been on this earth, it is that game series that come out yearly are not my thing, as I would play Pokemon Emerald for 4 years straight as a kid with no need to go to the next generation until I was much older, and that satellites make for deadly weapons of mass destruction. Satellite cannon and all cards relating to it were used by Prince Ojin in GX. You know, possibly the happiest series in Yu-Gi-Oh! History if you don't count what was never dubbed. And it has a weapon of mass destruction. Prince Ojin actually owned these monsters' real-life counterparts, being giant-ass missiles that could wipe out the planet if he wanted to. Probably. That probably is why it's below the number 3 slot, but I digress. The idea of just pushing a few buttons and nuking whatever you wanted is an incredible amount of power. So this one's a little cheating, but I could not decide between many, many monsters for this slot, as they all have a similar enough power level and are still much, 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 much weaker than the silver medal winner. So let's name off some of the apocalyptic monsters that, if they existed, would destroy the Earth easily. In the original series, we have the Egyptian gods, as well as Exodia, Zork Necrophades, and Diabound Colonel to a certain degree. In Yu-Gi-Oh! R, there were the Wicked Gods. In GX, we have Yubel herself, the Sacred Beast in general, and Jinzo, the Child Soul-Stealing Ghost, as an honorable mention as he is intangible, but can't leave his power plant. I think? I mean, it's never really stated, maybe he just really likes it there. In 5Ds, we have the Nordic gods for being actual deities, and the Time Lords for literally being mechanical angels named after biblical figures. In Zexal, we have Dyson Sphere, the card the size of a star and with a rail cannon to boot. Numero Network for being a dimension in and of itself, Sphere Field for the same reason. Finally, in Arc 5, we have Zark and any subsidiary thereof. Whew! What do they all have in common, you may ask? They could ravage planet Earth without a second thought or so much as a sweat. And these are only the ones that did things in the real world. Can you imagine if an arc in the anime ever covered things like the planetary deities and showed planets coming out of orbit to fight alongside you, making tides drown the planet instantly? This list has really made me appreciate that the worst thing I have to deal with is paying rent and making sure to call my family regularly. Number 2 isn't a surprise. It's Super Poly. Not a planet buster, but a dimension fuser. That's a pretty big jump up there. Remember when we were talking about a fireball that hurts you a lot? Well, now we're talking about multiverse theory not only being right, but also being catastrophic to all life in no fewer than 12 dimensions. This is a scale I can't even really comprehend. And boy howdy, does Super Poly make it seem like it's really, really not what we want to have happen. Keep in mind it's only at number 2 because I imagine there could be one worse way for the universe to end. And you can interchange them at your leisure. Just know both are absolutely cosmic in what they do to all life as we know it. Number 1's actually the card series that took down Zark, if that means anything. They are N Flowers, N Winds, N Bird, and N Moon. They literally tear a dimension apart into no fewer than 4 dimensions. Maybe dimensions confuse and you're unaffected because we're at the center of the universe or like on the other side from where the dimensions are like fusing or something like that. But this? The idea of reality itself collapsing to create new ones? It's kind of like a Big Bang Theory. Specifically the one that implies that once the heat death of the universe occurs, the universe will emit an incredible amount of energy and start anew. A little badly explained, but I'm not Vsauce. In any case, a Big Bang-like effect on the entire universe should qualify for number 1 on every list. Best spells, worst spells, top 10 abnormal things people have put on their tax returns. Anything goes.